Okay, so 4.1b, we're still solving quadratic equations using factoring. The entire set of notes is just examples, so we're just going to be looking at some more examples. So example number 1. Okay, so let's start with a difference of two squares. What's the first thing I should always look for at GCF? Do I have one here? No, so we can go straight to factoring. So this is going to give me 4x plus 1 times 4x minus 1 equals 0. And then I set each factor equal to 0. And then to solve this, I subtract 1. So that gives me 4x equals negative 1. Divide by 4. X equals negative 1/4. Same thing on the other side. You add 1 to both sides. So we get 4x equals positive 1. Divide both sides by 4. And x equals positive 1/4. So how could I rewrite that?
X equals minus positive.
Minus positive? Plus or minus?
Same thing.
Plus or minus 1/4.
Sometimes you can go boom.
Okay. Yes.
Right on the board.
Okay. Example 2. (15x squared plus 7x minus 2 equals 0). What's the first thing you think of when you see this?
Bottoms up.
Bottoms up. But we need to look for a what first? GCF. Do you see one?
No.
No. So let's go ahead and do bottoms up. So first thing, we take the 15 and multiply it by negative 2. So that's going to give me x squared plus 7x minus 30 equals 0. I don't know why I started a parentheses there. And you have to make sure that you keep setting it equal to 0 because we have an equation this time, not just an expression. So make sure you keep writing the equals 0 part. And then we can factor this using diamond. So we have negative 30 and adds up to positive 7. 10 and 3. Which one has to be negative? The 3. Good. So this is x minus 3 times x plus 10 equals 0. Then what? Divide by 15. So make sure that you don't forget to divide by 15. Okay, so we can reduce this. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 15. 5. 10 and 15 also reduce by 5. So 5 goes into 10 twice, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. And then we bring the bottoms up. So that gives me 5x minus 3 times 3x plus 2. Oh, 5x minus 1. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Equals 0. Now we can set everything equal to 0. So we set each factor equal to 0. And it looks like we're going to get fractions here as well. I add 1 to both sides. So that gives me 5x equals 1. Divide by 5. So x equals 1/5. And then do the same process on the right. So subtract 2. 3x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by 3. So x also equals negative 2/3. Okay. What I want you guys to do, example 3, I want you to try it on your own. The instructions say find the zeros of the function by rewriting in intercept form. The zeros just means solve when y is equal to 0. So that's what it means when it asks for zeros. So set the whole thing equal to 0. and then use factoring to solve for this. Okay. All right. Really quick, we do bottoms up here. There's no GCF. So that gives me x squared minus 2x minus 80. And then I need to figure out what two numbers multiply to negative 80 and add up to negative 2. 10 and 8, which negative 10. Good. So that gives me x minus 10 times x plus 8. Divide everything by 16. 8 goes into 16 twice, and 10 and 16 both reduce by 2. So that would be 5 over 8. And then we bring the bottoms up. So 0 equals 8x minus 5 times 2x plus 8. Set everything equal to 0, so we get 8x minus 5 equals 0. 2x plus 8 equals 0. Add 5 to both sides.
Wouldn't that be 2x plus 1?
Oh, yeah, this is 1. I did it again. I know. Subtract 1. 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2. We didn't divide this guy by 8. So we get x equals 5 over 8 and negative 1/2. Who got that?
I did.
Excellent. So, example number 4. Which method of factoring did you use, Josiah? Yeah, you're going to use factoring. Which method did you use? Bottoms up. Okay. So, bottoms up on example 4. What's the first step of bottoms up? Who's 33? Yes. 4 times negative 5. So that gives me x squared minus 19x minus 20. Okay, bottoms up. Next step. Who's 29? Nobody. 40. Dustin. Next step. Diamond method. What two numbers multiply to negative 20 and add up to negative 19? Yeah, good. Negative 20, positive 1. So that gives me x minus 20 times x plus 1. And then what do I do? Who's 35? Ashley?
You divide it by 4.
Excellent. We divide everything by 4. 4 goes into 20 evenly 5 times, and then we bring the bottoms up. So all of that factors to x minus 5 times 4x plus 1. And to solve for x, what do I do? Who's 34? Exactly. I get x minus 5 equals 0, and I get 4x plus 1 equals 0. We add 5 to both sides, so I get x equals 5. Subtract 1, so 4x equals negative 1. And divide by 4 to get x equals negative 1/4. Who got that correct? Perfect. Okay, number 5. What method did you use to factor that one? Who's 25? Priya. GCF. What was the GCF? X squared. Perfect. So we have x squared times x plus 3 equals 0. And then what do I do? Who's in 10?
You multiply.
We did. We factored using GCF. Can I factor any more? No. So then what do I do to solve? Not quite, Lindsay. What do I do? Yeah, because I'm solving for x, I set each thing equal to 0. Okay, let's do x plus 3 equals 0 first because that looks like what we've been doing. So I get x equals -3 as one of my answers. And then here I have x squared equals 0. Now think back to Algebra 1. On the right-hand side, I subtracted 3. Why did I subtract 3?
You're adding it.
Because it's the opposite of addition. So if I have x squared here, what's the opposite of x squared?
Divide by x.
Not divide. I want to get x by itself.
Square root.
Square root, yes. So if I take the square root of both sides, what's the square root of x squared? X. So we get x equals 0. So my other answer is 0. Okay? Does that make sense?
Okay.
That was very, very good. Okay, example number 6. 5x to the 4th plus 50x squared minus 55. Opie, what do you see? A greatest common factor of? 5. So let's factor out the 5. That gives me x to the 4th plus 10x squared minus 11 equals 0. And then this kind of looks like diamond method, but I'm not exactly sure because of that x to the 4th. Can I use diamond method on this? Actually, I can. Instead of breaking it up into x and x, we can just break it up to x squared and x squared. So we just need to fill in those blanks. What two numbers multiply to -11 and add up to +10?
11 and 1.
11 and 1. Which one is negative? The 1. So that's plus 11 minus 1. Does anybody see anything else we can do to factor? Exactly. I have a difference of 2 squares here. So this is still 5 times x squared plus 11 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. All of that equals 0. So looking at what we have so far, how many factors do I actually have? 4. 5 counts as a factor. So we take each one of those and set them equal to 0. Okay. 5 equals 0. Is that possible? No. So we don't count it. So there's only 3 possible. Now we're down to 3 possible answers. How do I solve this one? Subtract 11. Good. I get x squared equals -11. And then what did I do in the last one when I had x squared? Square root. Square root of x squared gives me x equals square root of -11. Is that possible? Can you take the square root of a negative? No. It's called an imaginary number. We're not there yet. So, that is also not possible. So now we only have 2 answered possibilities.
It would be like I11
Subtract 1 from both sides, so we get x equals -1, and add 1 to both sides, so x equals +1. So my answer is plus or minus 1. So it's very important to make sure that you ask yourself if your answer makes sense, because you could get some answers that are not possible. Okay? Last one, example 7. It's a grouping. So we have x to the 3rd minus 3x squared minus 16x plus 48 equals 0. I have 4 terms here, so I know I'm going to use the grouping method. So let's group the first 2 and the last 2. Okay, what should I do first after I've grouped them? Who's in 15? Greatest common factor. What's the GCF here? X squared. Good. So we pull out an x squared, and that leaves me with x minus 3. Okay, what's the GCF here? Who's in 14? 3. 8 works. We have a bigger one. 16. But negative. because that will leave us with an x minus 3, and we want these two to be the same, equals 0. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what do I want to do next?
Put it together. Square root.
Yeah, factor out the x minus 3, and then we are left with x squared minus 16. And this is what killed me when I was grading your test the other day. There is one more step that we can do. What is it? Geez, difference of 2 squares. So that is x plus 4 times x minus 4 equals 0. How many factors do I have in this problem? 3. So we set each one equal to 0. And we solve each of those. So in this one I get x equals positive 3, x equals negative 4, and x equals positive 4. So my answer is 3 plus or minus 4. You could also list out positive 4, negative 4. That's okay as well. Okay?